Most of us think of a job as a way to make money. We see the salary on the contract, let's say it's $70,000, and we start planning our lives around it. But what if I told you that the very act of showing up to that job is actually a massive financial liability? Between the car you only bought to get there, the person you pay to watch your kids while you're there, and the $18 salad you buy because you're too exhausted to meal prep, you aren't making $70,000. In fact, for the average American, the cost of just having a job has climbed to nearly $30,000 a year. Today, we're going to map out the work tax. I want to show you how our modern economy has built a system where you have to spend a fortune just to earn one. Let's go. The most normalized expense in modern working life, and one of the most underestimated, is commuting. Do you know that the average American worker drives roughly 15,000 miles per year, with a large share of that mileage tied directly to work? According to transportation data, the average worker spends about $1,249 annually on fuel and basic vehicle maintenance strictly for commuting. That may not seem like a lot, but fuel is only the first part. Vehicles lose value every mile they are driven, and daily commuting accelerates depreciation at one of the fastest possible rates. A $30,000 car driven to work 5 days a week can lose over $6,000 in value in its first year alone. When you add insurance premiums that rise with mileage, tire replacements, oil changes, and inevitable repairs, the financial cost of simply getting to work often crosses $8,000 a year before time is even considered. Speaking of time, this is where commuting becomes very expensive, especially given our modern society. The average one-way commute in the United States now sits just under 30 minutes. That's roughly 1 hour per day, 5 hours per week, and about 250 hours per year spent in traffic. If you earn $25 an hour, that time carries an opportunity cost of $6,250 annually. That's money you are not paid, skills you are not developing, and hours of your life that disappear without compensation. Combined with vehicle depreciation and fuel, commuting alone can approach or exceed $10,000 per year, making it the most expensive unpaid obligations workers carry. For parents, the financial equation becomes even more severe. Childcare has evolved into what many economists now describe as a second mortgage, and in some cases, it's even more expensive. In 2026, families with young children are spending an average of 20% or more of their household income on childcare. In major metropolitan areas, full-time care for one child routinely exceeds $25,000 per year, with many families paying over $30,000 just to remain employed. This creates one of the most ironic financial loops in modern economics. Parents work in order to afford childcare, and they pay for childcare in order to work. To put this into perspective, consider a household earning $80,000 annually. If childcare costs $30,000 per year, that alone consumes 37.5% of gross income. After taxes, commuting, health insurance, the net benefit of one parent's job can shrink to a few $100s a month, or in some cases, turn negative. And yet, exiting the workforce isn't always an option, because career gaps reduce long-term earnings, retirement contributions, and job security. Then there is convenience spending, a category that feels small day to day but becomes massive when summed up. Demanding jobs compress time, and when time disappears, money steps in to fill the gap. Workers buy lunch instead of cooking. They outsource cleaning, errands, and meals not because they want to, but because exhaustion leaves no alternative. The average office worker now spends around $18 per workday on lunch and about $8 on coffee or snacks. Multiply that by 240 workdays per year, and you're looking at $6,240 on lunch and $1,920 on coffee alone. That's over $8,000 annually, and that's before accounting for takeout dinners, grocery delivery fees, or meal subscriptions used to survive busy weeks. Even appearance comes with a price. Many professions impose unspoken requirements that aren't reimbursed but are strictly enforced through social pressure. Office-appropriate wardrobes, dry cleaning, haircuts, grooming, cosmetics, and professional maintenance are treated as personal choices, even when they are functionally mandatory. A conservative estimate puts professional clothing and upkeep between $1,000 and $3,000 annually. In fields like law, finance, or consulting, that number can climb even higher. The health and productivity gap make things even worse than it already is. You see, stress is a measurable economic force.
According to the American Institute of Stress, workplace stress accounts for roughly $190 billion in annual healthcare costs in the United States alone. That number is so large it's hard to picture, so let's bring it down to the individual level. For the average worker, chronic job stress shows up first in health insurance. When healthcare utilization goes up, insurance costs follow. Even a modest premium increase of $50 per month translates to $600 per year, and that's before deductibles, co-pays, or uncovered treatments. Add just 2 extra sick days per year, and you're already losing income or productivity. If you make $60,000 annually, that's about $230 per workday. 2 days gone is nearly $500 evaporated, just like that. But stress doesn't stop at insurance or sick days. It changes behavior. People under constant pressure often sleep less. Sleep deprivation alone is one of the most expensive hidden costs of modern work. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has repeatedly linked chronic lack of sleep to higher risks of heart disease, obesity, diabetes, and depression. Each of those conditions comes with long-term medical costs that compound over time. Conservatively, when you add higher premiums, sick days, stress-driven spending, and productivity loss, the health and productivity gap alone lands somewhere between $2,000 and $5,000 per year per worker. And that's not a worst-case scenario, that's only the average. This is why remote work is the next best alternative. Research into hybrid and remote work patterns shows that employees save on average $42 per day when they work from home. That number includes transportation, parking, fuel, lunches, coffee, wardrobe wear, and incidental spending that only exists because you had to leave the house. Let's do the math. $42 per day times just 3 remote days per week equals $126 weekly. Multiply that by 52 weeks, and you're saving $6,552 per year. That's already more than many annual raises, and that's without asking your employer for a single extra dollar. For fully remote workers, the number climbs even higher. 5 days a week at $42 is $109,210 annually. That alone makes remote work one of the most powerful income multipliers of the modern era. But this doesn't only benefit the employees. Employers also benefit. Companies save an average of $11,000 per employee per year when they reduce office overhead, lower turnover, and cut down on absenteeism. Less office space means lower rent. Fewer burned-out employees means lower recruitment and training costs. In economic terms, this is one of the rare situations where incentives align almost perfectly, and yet many organizations still resist it. Part of that resistance comes from outdated policy frameworks. Commercial zoning laws, urban tax structures, and even transportation subsidies built around the assumption that people would commute 5 days a week forever. Governments invested billions into infrastructure designed for daily mass commuting, and sudden remote work threatens to make some of those investments look obsolete. In response, some cities have rolled back remote-friendly policies, nudging workers back into offices to protect downtown economies rather than individual well-being. But here's the paradox. When workers commute less, healthcare costs go down, stress goes down, productivity per hour often goes up, fewer cars on the road reduce emissions, easing public health burdens linked to air pollution. Now, from a systems perspective, tell me why remote work shouldn't be encouraged. When you add all of this together, you'll realize that the act of being employed carries a hidden annual cost that rivals rent payments, college tuition, or healthcare premiums. It's not uncommon for the total to land squarely between $20,000 and $30,000 per year. What makes this especially striking is that many of these costs didn't exist at this scale a generation ago. Back then, policies supported shorter commutes, single-income households, and employer-covered benefits. But shifts in housing policy, urban planning, and labor expectations have pushed more of these costs onto individuals. Governments now encourage workforce participation without fully accounting for the expenses required to make participation possible. In effect, workers subsidize the economy with unpaid time, unreimbursed costs, and long-term health trade-offs. The unsettling part isn't that these costs exist, but that they're normalized. They're invisible because they're fragmented. Fuel here, coffee there. No single expense feels outrageous on its own. But together, they tell a different story. A story where your salary is not what you earn, but what remains after the work tax has taken its share. Now, over to you. How much does your job really cost you? Tell us in the comments below. If you found this video eye-opening, support us by subscribing to our channel and giving this video a like. Check out other analytical financial videos like this on our channel.